This is 42 Tribes discussion. I'm doing something I don't like to do. And otherwise I would have done it. But if you're studying wisdom teachers long enough on the YouTube wisdom teachers, and there are plenty of them, eventually you're going to hear enough misinformation, or even if it's not misinformation, maybe mistakes, and you want to chime in. I tried with young Pharaoh to talk to him directly, but he's very busy. So, it's public misinformation, so I might as well do this public. But I want to say this first, that I don't mean any offense. This is not a diss. I might say some insulting things about Lex and No God, but personally, I'll just get to that when I get to that. I can't really apologize to that, other than to say it's all part of bringing an understanding to what I'm saying. With Willie Pete, I didn't even approach him because I think this is something he can chew on. I don't think he would take this the wrong way. I first heard of Young Pharaoh, and this was a while ago. I started hearing him on Sonnetta. I saw some mistakes, but it wasn't. I think I left something in the comments. I was like, dude, Africans were not matriarchal. They were matrilineal. Get that straight. But other than that, and they weren't completely matrilineal. They were matrilineal when it comes to titles and heirs, and it was mostly just to keep everything through the womb, because you could prove who the kids were. It's like that saying, mama's baby, daddy's maybe. So, but other aspects of society were patrilineal. So it was harmonious, and this notion that I hear where we need to give up all this credence to the women, and I'm like, are you really studying ancient Egyptian culture? It was very harmonious, and that's one of the reasons why I don't really see any examples of any type of gender fuse, because it was basically very harmonious. Basically, there's just been some things that built up, and one major thing stuck out, and I just got to the point where I got to do a video, but I've been very busy, so a lot of this stuff is old. Maybe I do see that Young Pharaoh is starting to tone the stuff down, but let me just start with the first thing that stuck out with Young Pharaoh.
It is documented that there is a 65 million year old pyramid in what? I'll pull it up. What? I'll pull it up.
It is documented that there is a 65 million year old pyramid in what? I'll pull it up. What? I'll pull it up. You trying to look crazy.
When I saw that, I was like, I said, what's going on with Sonnetta? Somebody needs to pull this cat to the side, man. What the hell is going on? 65 million. The fuck? His brother's on that narcotic again? Is crack making a comeback? I had to look it up. I had to Google this shit. And I looked it up, and this is what he's talking about. A Crimean, I think it's Russia. Crimean, I'm not even sure where the hell Crimea is. I've heard the word before. You can't look at this and tell this is fake? You can't tell this is fake? Sonnetta should have pulled him to the side and be like, man, there ain't no goddamn 65. There's pyramids that are 5,000 years old and they look old. And it's a white dude on there. It looks like a computer render. How come there ain't no angles? This is what he's talking about. I'm saying, man, what was he puffing? There's no breed, no growth of marijuana. I don't care what you put in it. Well, maybe you could spike it with some shit, but I mean, if you're growing it natural, I don't care what you put in the soil, you gotta be able to tell that's fake. So, I don't mean to rout on him. I wanted to respond to that. I might have said something in the comments, but I wanted to sit back and see, how does obvious misinformation, what are people fans of that? What are they going to do with it? So I decided to side-eye young Pharaoh, because some things, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist, if I believe in something or if I suspect something that's wild, I've got evidence. So I wanted to see, that was just too ridiculous of a mistake. It just seemed like he was trying to steer people into idiocy to not know that that's fake. So I continued to watch him, and I'll just say things got worse before they got better. So let me show you how things got worse.
They supersede a certain amount of intelligence where they just skip the physical realm all in all and just exist at their density level. So now when you see the Illuminati and all these people doing rituals and you say they worshiping devils, no. They're using frequencies to contact these entities in exchange for intelligence. They manipulate the world and manifest certain energies at certain times so that these entities can feed off them, because they're not in a physical shell, so they can't feel these vibrations. So the Illuminati or the Caucasian who is running the world sacrifices the people of this world by forcing us into a certain way of life, which will force us to feel certain emotions in order to project our energy to these light entities that are non-physical form. So now
I'm thinking, what is he talking about? I'm not getting, this is way out there, man. This is like, I've heard people talk about, like, kind of make fun of, I don't like to use the word hotep niggers. I don't mind if you call me a nigger, whatever, so much. In certain contexts, it might be fighting words. You're trying to embarrass me or whatever. But don't disparage Hotep. But when I see people talking like this, I want to say, well, that's some Hotep nigga shit. So where is he going with this? But one thing I want to say is I wish people would stop calling light-skinned people Caucasians, because that word was created just like it was kind of roll of the dice stuff with Johann. I think his name was Johann Blumenbach or something. But since then, racists have been really, and I'm not saying racist plural, I'm saying like racist people. They've used that word as like a shoehorn to put themselves into Africa. They'll use it. They'll say like jungle Africans, like Tutsis, or if they see anybody in Africa that has features that are like theirs, which they should, considering that's their ancestors sometimes, or their ancestors' kin. They'll see people like be jungle, Middle Africa, West Africa, Fulani, Kenyans, like a third of Kenyans, half of Ethiopians, and they'll say they're Caucasians. And they're just doing that to insert themselves into ancient history. And because these people, there's a few tribes that may have come from Europe or whatever, or mixed with people that came from Europe, especially in Ethiopia, but not so much in Kenya. A lot of these features, they're African features. And to call them Caucasian, no. I never call people Caucasian if I can help it. So I'm just throwing that out. The other reason it was used to justify colonialism. Like, this is our homeland.
Say, where did the Caucasian come from? We know that in the Caucasian's Bible, you look at Lucifer as what? A dragon, a serpent. We know that the 13 royal bloodline families are what? Headed by, what's so royal about the bloodline? It's extraterrestrial. It's headed by what you would consider a reptilian. So we know that the Caucasian is nothing more than a genetically spliced and genetically modified organism created by an extraterrestrial entity in order to rule on this planet. In exchange for them to harvest our natural resources, the Caucasian will be used to suppress the original people of this planet. Because without going over your head, you have what you call galactic law. So black people, we will be the children of God, what you would consider the
man. Okay, it's over my head. 42 tribes cannot grasp what this brother is saying. It sounds agent-like. And this is when I started side-eyeing him. When I really started thinking, I don't like accusing people of being an agent. And I'm not saying he's an agent because I've changed my mind on that. But at this point, I'm saying this guy is just, steering us away from any type of progress into mumbo-jumbo. And he's wrong about white people. I can tell you where they came from, and it ain't
so now,
aliens.
Underneath galactic law, certain entities can't fuck with us. So what do you do in order to honor the law? You say, okay, well, I'm a genetically engineer of people who can oppress those people, but I'm not the one doing it. So So you just ciphering your energy to a motherfucker who can't get on this dimension and exist. So they had a Caucasian set up religions in order to, it's like ciphering gas, in order to cipher the energies of the souls on this planet, and then they just feed the Caucasian technology and intelligence in return for your energy. So now when we say, where does the Caucasian come from? You can't understand this if you don't understand this science and this level of existence, because then you would know that the Caucasian was genetically created by extraterrestrials through gene splicing.
What would they do that for? They gonna genetically engineer somebody else to do their handiwork. Okay. Did he just say extraterrestrials are feeding white people science and intelligence? What extraterrestrials? We need to cut this shit off. Or we need to get... How can we hook up with them so we can get some intelligence and science too? Shit, that's what you should be talking about. Where are these extraterrestrials?
If you don't think gene splicing is real, or people want to say, oh, same species can't mix, look at a liger. In the wild, a tiger and a lion would never have sex, but you got a liger walking around this motherfucker. And then when you look at a lab rat, you see Caucasians, you say, okay, well, nobody really get abducted but Caucasians. Only Caucasians just magically get abducted. They got all the abduction stories. We look at a lab rat. The black lab rat has too much melanin. And when they inject the viruses and the shit that they create, the genes of the black lab rat, due to the melanin, fights it off too strong. So they grafted the white lab rat from the black lab rat in order to experiment on it. If you look up the origin of a white lab rat, that's not natural. That's genetically created. Same thing as the Caucasian. The melanated man, we too strong. You can't experiment on us. So you graft a motherfucking humanoid entity to experiment and carry out your agenda with, because you can't do it with us. So then when people get to saying, oh, the Yakub theory is pseudo, Yakub just means supplanter. So Yakub is an entity which supplanted a race of people here. So when I say Yakub created the Caucasian race 6,000 years ago, and you say it's pseudo, but then a white man just told you he only been here for 6,101 years. So where did this white gene just come from? Do you understand that an albino has more African features than a Caucasian? Do you understand that an albino has no melanin at all? So what gave the Caucasian such little bit of melanin? Because you can't say it's a form of albinism, because the albino ain't got a speck of goddamn melanin, but he still got curly hair, still got big nose, still got big lips. So we can see that the albino is a genetic offspring defect of an African. The Caucasian has a whole nother motherfucking anatomy.
I had to stop it there. That was just too much misinformation. First, he is absolutely false. Well, I won't say absolutely. White people are not par excellence albinos. They are not albino extreme. They are cut albinos. They have enough melanin from mixing with dark-skinned people from all over the continent. Like Southern Europeans have a lot of African in them because obvious. They've got some old African. The Moors came in there, and that's why they're a little bit darker. You can see some with some mean tans. Northern Europeans have a lot of the characteristics. Like if you look up traits of albinos, it's blonde hair, blue eyes, red hair, white skin that can tan, white skin that can't tan, pink eyes. That's albino extreme. Freckle. And let me demonstrate this. This whole thing that albinism isn't natural or white isn't natural. Come on the fuck on. You got albino trees. albino bugs, mollusks, animals. And let me say, it goes even further than that. They're albino with some of the same genes that we are albinos with. I don't know, I could open this article, but there's 2 articles out there. I could show the link where I posted it, and I think it was this dude, Mind Over Matter on Egyptsearch, posted it. And one of the genes that causes albinisms in human, SLC45A2, I found an article where it bleaches feathers in pigeons. So a dove is an albino pigeon. But because there's other genes that factor into it, you get other colors. Just like you have a phenomelanin giving a red tinge. I don't know if it gives a red tinge to dark-skinned people, because some dark-skinned people have a red tinge. But it'll give it to light-skinned people. And then you can see it also, he was talking about ligers. The SLC45A2, it's in humans. And there's another article where it does the same with tigers. And you can see where you have like that half albino tiger. So you got the melanated tigers, and you got the mulatto tigers, and you got the quadroon tigers, and you got the albino tigers. And it's the same with people. It's the same with apes. Sometimes you have it with trees. There's also a gene that can cause people to go full on melanin. It's rare though, but you can do it in humans. White people have done that to make themselves black. And believe me, if we head towards a more magical age where having dark skin stimulates your pineal gland, white people will be injecting themselves so they can be black wizards or magicians. Also, I could go in deeper and explain how different albino mutations were always in Africa, and then they became more numerous. And that's how you end up with a white race. White skin has always been around. Just look at your palm, look at the soles of your feet. The human race has always had white skin, and they've always had albinos. But when different clusters of albinos started to group, then their traits were passed on, but at a fixed rate, which is why, like I said, white were not albino par excellence. They're albino cut. And they should thank us for that. Or they should thank their ancestors that they're cut, because it would not be fun to be a complete albino. And like you were saying, it is true. People with blue eyes are more likely to have vision problems. And blue eyes, the word albino is in the condition that causes blue eyes. So I could go in much deeper. I could slam this home. I could do an hour, and I want to give credit to Real History WW. That provided a lot of the information. I went further. I was the one that just looking around, I'm like, I'm seeing all these albino animals, and somebody demonstrated, I think it was Mind Over Matter, that white tigers have the same mutation that some white people have. And so I looked, I'm like, well, is that true with other animals? It's true with pigeons. And just like with tigers, with pigeons, with different apes, you have a range and a gradation of skin colors, because you have the more, I don't want to say natural, because I think you can have light brown skin and that's somewhat natural, but you have the more sun-kissed extreme, and which is more common. You even see this in Neanderthals. People talk a lot about Neanderthals being white people, when there's African tribes that have Neanderthal in them, to keep it real. And so far, the Neanderthals that have been studied, they don't have an abundance of these albino genes. See, when white people look into history and they want to find themselves, they look for albino genes. And another thing I need to point out, he's talking about how he starts talking about black people and he starts talking about albinos. Well, I'm like, well, what black people? If you look at some of these people that they were calling Caucasian, even though they ain't been to the Caucasus Mountains, who have features that are more like their European, or some European, because not all Europeans are white, but white European grand or nieces or whatever, and nephews, when they go albino, like when you see an albino Somali, it looks a lot like a white person. When you see an albino Indian, East Indian, look a lot like, and genetically they're close. And I could go through the human phylogenetic tree. It's easy. This is easy science. You can see where they came from. Modern Europe, the white folks in modern Europe are a genetic extension of Africans and a more ancient Central Asian. Just follow the genetics. It'll take you right there. You don't need Jakob in the laboratory brewing up albinism. It's been around before mankind. It was in plants. So this is just unnecessary misinformation. Unnecessary hocus-pocus when the evidence for where white people came is just right there. You can look at the palm of your hands. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. You don't need a fancy-dancy alien species to create white people. You can create white people yourself. You can create white right now. When you see these people like Little Kim or Sammy Sosa, they're using like that HER2 inhibitor to lighten their skin. And you can pay for gene therapy and be an albino. It's the same thing. When people lighten their skin and they're not using bleach, they're using they're using gene therapy, and they're tweaking albino genes to make themselves albino. So you can make yourself an albino. It really, and nowadays you can even inject melanin. So that's still kind of new. But this white dude in Australia did it. He's walking around black. He became a black man. So I'm just like, hey, all this bullshit about aliens dropping dimes for intelligence and science. No, it's called research. Nothing fancy. No aliens involved. No Jakob. I'm thinking a lot of this is coming from the anti-evolution crowd that's in the conscious community. And I don't understand that the anti-evolution crowd other than I think they're just afraid to die. Instead of just being straight up like they're disenchanted with Christianity, but what's going to happen to my soul? But they're not challenging evolution. I'll give you an example. This dude, and this guy, I think he's either playing stupid. Actually, I think he's playing stupid. I don't think, and I'm not talking about young Pharaoh. I think young Pharaoh is just, he's out in front. Out in front without thinking, and ego is too up there instead of just stepping back and rolling it back and looking at the information and using logic. I think young Pharaoh has hope. There's this Lex Vortex guy, no hope. Let me give you an example.
Oh, man. Again, I never said there was no natural selection in evolution. First of all, there's undoubtedly natural selection in evolution. My premise is that natural selection is not a creative force. It only produces variations. And evolution is only microevolution. So my premise is that you can get changes in DNA, but you will never get another species or an animal. You will never get a dinosaur that turns into a bird.
What he's doing, this is a tactic I see. This tactic I'm seeing is to look for something, something that's true in one context and rock with that. I think it's logical fallacy. I forget which one. But in doing that, by saying evolution is a changing force and not a creating force, and there will be changes in the DNA, but it won't change the creature. Bullshit! It's stuff like this that made me do this video. And I'm not usually that passionate when I talk. I'm usually more laid back. But this is running start bullshit. If I can change your DNA, I can turn you into a creature that looks nothing human. If I can change your DNA, I can make it so you can't breed. And if you can't breed, then that means, you're a different species. Our DNA, the difference in DNA from humans and certain plants. I mean, just look at a plant cell. Look at embryos when everything is small. The difference is subtle because we're reusing. In a sense, he's right. We aren't creating, we are variating. But if you take a housefly, I think a housefly has like 70% the same DNA as a human. But if you take a housefly, you don't need to create anything new to make it into a human. Because everything already came. Everything's already here. We're made of stuff that's already here. We might have like some esoteric spirit essence. I could go there. But outside of that, which you're going to struggle to prove, we are the fly and other minerals and substances on the earth. So we are, I think people talk about the plant we're most related to is a banana tree. Or the tree we're most related to is a banana tree. So he's just bullshitting. And this was a debate he had with Ngozi, who's a biologist, but Ngozi struggles framing an argument. And he struggles seizing on information. He's going too fast. Slow down, Ngozi. Slow down and savor the bullshit. And he didn't go back to this. If I would have said, I don't know half the shit about genetics and a biologist. He's a biologist. I would have seized on that. I'm like, dude, you lost. You just admitted that DNA can change. Done. It's done. It's done. If DNA can change, then, man, if I could fuck with somebody's genetic code, I could turn them into a horrible looking creature. Just a disgusting mutant. So yeah, that wouldn't be human anymore, at least to our eyes. You were like, it wasn't human, it was a beast. So you're jumping species. That's all jumping species is. I want to throw in a little bit more Lex, even though this really isn't too Lex, but just an example of how freestyling this is. And that this freestyling, and you'll see how he contradicts himself. This is coming from sloth, because not taking the time to learn, and it's also dogma. And I hear this dogma, I've heard it with, I think, Dr. Ali Muhammad, when he said, I refuse to believe that we came from monkeys. And really nobody's saying that. Maybe a monkey-like creature if you want to go there, but the fuck? You know what a primate is? Well, I'll get to that.
And you can't complain about white supremacy, because what people don't know is white supremacy right now in the back rooms is fueled by social Darwinism. The strongest survive. The fittest, you know what I'm saying, the people that are most fit, and the strong kill the weak. So when they talk about social Darwinism behind closed rooms and eugenics and all that, the position that black people are in, according to social Darwinism, they gotta be depopulated. Because at this point in time, they're saying, well, obviously, they don't have what it takes to deal with the modern world for whatever reason. And the very fact that we can oppress them means that we are higher on the evolutionary timeline. That's social Darwinism, which turns into evolution, which these guys are pushing, which makes them social Darwinists.
Right.
But
two contradictions. First, he just said previously that natural selection is real. And now, because the science behind social Darwinism is natural selection. I'm not saying I believe in social Darwinism. It is a white supremacist argument, but in that context, it's not taken seriously. I mean, you can't make that in public like, yeah, we have the power to invade and kill, and therefore we should invade and wipe them out. Well, that doesn't even happen in nature. I mean, Wolverine's like killing people, but they, you know, I think they're smart enough to realize that they just can't go around killing, well, not people, they're just going around killing animals indiscriminately. You know, if they get into a fight, you know what's up, they can do it. They win a lot of fights in the wild. And the bigger hypocrisy, though, is he says, well, their population is up, so we have to depopulate them. Well, if all you've thrown in Africa, invasions from Asia, invasions from Europe, diseases, I would argue that AIDS was created for them. Diseases, colonialism, genocides, from colonial genocide, 2 slave genocides. And guess what? Not only are Africans here, they're improving. Like their economies are improving. Their population has grown with all of that. So if you're going to make a social Darwinism argument, you can't make it against Africans, or else you're bullshitting, because they have been selected naturally because they are fit. That is why their population is high. And if white people were to say, well, the population is too high, let's lower it, well, bring it on. If they get fucked off trying to lower Africa's population, then it will not be the Africans who are unfit, it'll be them for being stupid enough to attack them and getting dead.
Homogeneous family. Break that down for the people. The oldest starts 2.5 million years ago with Homo habilis. Then from Homo habilis you get Homo erectus. From Homo erectus you get Homo heidelbergensis. Homo heidelbergensis or Homo primate type of people. No, these are humans. These are
Going too fast, Ngozi. You're going too fast, because you know they are primates. Primates are a class that includes humans and the great apes, I think, and pretty much all the monkeys. And if you take that class back and you include rodentia, I think it's called Eurocontylers or something like that. And these are just classes based on different features that we can see. This whole notion, like another one of those logical fallacies, they'll call it white men science. That basically means, no, that's not white men science. That's, I'm too lazy to study it. Because if it was white man science, you would study it and disprove it, but you're not even fucking with it. You're not touching it. I can see that I share traits with a creature that got hands and feet, like an ape. So you could classify me with the apes and say, okay, humans and apes are primates in this classification. Maybe it's kind of funny that they call that apes get their name in it and humans don't, instead of like human apes or something like that, but that wouldn't sound good. So you got primates. But, you know, if I were to go to Africa, I would do some African stuff. I'd probably eat some bushmeat if the animal wasn't in danger. Should I have been eating bush? Well, never mind. But, you know, but I wouldn't eat a primate, because they got hands and feet and they got a lot of human-like traits. Let's be real. You can tell we related by looking at them. That ain't white science. That's black. That's whoever looks at them. That's human science. You look at that, you observe it. There is a such thing as white science. Racist science, where they lie about genetics, or they'll lie about history, they'll lie about anthropology. And to defeat those lies, you got to go in there and fuck with it. Like I did with, wasn't the best video, but as far as production value, but I went in there and was smacking white science lies out of the ballpark. In this case, mainstream science, which I won't say white because, Ngozi's a biologist, mainstream science is kicking your ass. Your logical fallacies against some shit I can just see with my own eyes, against how the phylogenetic tree lines up with DNA. It's no contest. And nobody has contested it with anything. You've just made fools out of yourself and miseducated the public. And it's going to stop today. This slothful dogma, I don't want to think, let me just throw a logical fallacy out there and I'll have my shoulder monkey homunculus, oh God, or whatever his name is, and he'll be like, what's it called? Social Darwinism. Yeah. They're social Darwinism. They can't say anything about, all this is I don't feel like studying. And this sloth, it goes, I see it again. And that's why I'm starting to think, agents? Agents? And I don't think they're agents, and that's why I'm doing this. Because if I thought young Pharaoh was an agent, I wouldn't do this. I see potential. I'm picking out some of his flaws, but he has some good videos. I think he's actually on point when it comes to us going towards a more magical age. But the flaws, I'll just play some more young Pharaoh, and I'll try to, this is going to be a long video, but okay.
Right now, economics is nothing more than a cute way to say kidnap and ransom. Why? Because when you kidnap somebody, you're taking them, and everybody knows that you have taken this person from their location. And ransom is, I'll give you back this person for a certain amount of money. We know that the Caucasian has forced his way on the land of melanated people, kidnapped our natural resources, and told us if we don't join his economy and pay him back for our natural resources, then we cannot eat. So economics is nothing more than kidnap and ransom.
See, this is where it's going. I don't feel like working. I'm not building up the black community, because that's what she asked him. It was about, this was a powerful debate. Is a black woman God? Sister has to take the no in this case. And this dude is coming up with every ridiculous rationality not to build for your woman or for yourself, your kids. Maybe in a roundabout way he's right. It's just to overcome that, you gotta at least have a community, and that's doable. It's not like it's something you can't do. How do you build anything without taking resources? What are you going to build it with? You got to take some resources to build it. This is lazy talk. This is just, I ain't feel like doing it talk. I don't think that's what it is, though. It'll come later what I think this is, and it's even worse than lazy. Because I don't think young Pharaoh's lazy. That's the crazy thing, is he's very energetic, and he's always, he's enthusiastic to do. To me, there's an even sadder reason why he's coming up with these excuses. I think, but I don't want to play psychologist. I'll play it, and then
So if you want your black man to provide for you through economics, then you want him to also participate in the kidnap and ransom of his own natural resources. So once again, when we say provide for the black woman, let us speak solely on a physical, mental, and spiritual construct first before we go to economics. Now, am I saying don't get a job and do what you have to do for your family? No. But all I'm saying is know what you are actually participating in is the destruction of your own planet. The fact that you have to go to work and submit to the white man and then give him back the same money that he just paid you in order to eat, that is kidnap and robbery.
Now he's just babbling and talking in circles. Because, well, I'm not saying you shouldn't have to do it, but first we got to get with the spiritual and blah, blah, blah. How? Are you serious? Are you serious? You're going to tell her, wait, sister, we need a little bit more time to talk about your soul before we clean up the neighborhoods, before we put you on the cover of magazines and put you in movies. Before we take over the beauty industry so you ain't going to the Asians. Actually, that's on them. A lot of this is on women. I'm not trying to say this is what a lot of black men are on, but unfortunately it is. I just think with young Pharaoh it's a little bit different, and I'm going to get to that as I keep going. But right here, and then he says, well, yeah, we might have to go work for the white men. Okay. That's the begin game, not the end game. So if you know that that's part of the game, then you should be saying, go get yourself the best job, whoever you have to work for. As long as it isn't a son of a bitch, go get yourself a decent job and then work and start businesses and create an economic base. So when your kids are on their own. They don't have to go work for the white man. That should have been his message, but that's a little bit too literal for the magic man. Now, before, and I'm not trying to roast him because I'm picking out certain issues. He has a lot of good work, and I think when it comes to magic, I'm not a big believer in magic. I'm more of a literal person, but I cross-reference his stuff, and I would say if you're at all interested in any type of form of magic, listen to Young Pharaoh. Go listen to him, subscribe to him, and listen to him. And I think we might be headed towards a more magical age, but you got to be more literal to, this deflection.
Why? Because he kidnapped your land, told you if you come over here to pick an apple, I'm going to take your ass to jail. But you can go to work for me for a certain amount of hours and buy this apple back. That is kidnap and ransom. Economics is nothing more than kidnap and ransom. So now it's actually disrespectful for a black person to actually have a job or have to participate in economics when we had all of this shit that we have today at one point in time for free. So now, when it comes back to the primary means of supplying for your black person, for your black queen, I understand that I must be righteous. So I understand that before I contribute to the destruction of my black civilization by selling drugs or being destructive, I'll submit myself to the economy, and I'd rather provide and put a roof over our head by that way until black people stop being pussy and we turn up and liberate ourselves. But until our race as a whole do that, I'll be righteous and submit myself to the economy. But I don't think that I should be judged primarily by what I can provide for you when the whole system which is set up for me to provide for you is actually disrespectful and kidnap in a humanitarian crime on me and you. So you saying it's about what you have to step up to the table and be able to present certain type of provisions for the black woman when the whole way that you have to provide for the black woman is unnatural and destructive to your planet. In order for you to live, you have to actually give your life. That is crazy. So now, if I'm a hard-working black man who worked triples and doubles, and I got my wife living lavish, not you, queen, but to the average black woman, they feel like, oh, my man, he provides for me. You don't understand that you're submitting to a system which has taken from you, and I have to give hours and hours out of my day that I could be spending to myself to give back to you something which was naturally free but was taken from us. And we too scared to get some heart and go take that shit back. So now we try to use the excuse of go to college and get a good job and provide. When really it should just be, give me back my fucking farmland or bust your gun, because this is my shit. So when we're dealing with economics, once again, I don't think that the black man should be held to a standard of how much he can provide on a financial tip.
Because the one thing that we're getting a lot from this conscious community is a bunch of broke dudes offering nothing but feel-good talk.
This is one of the reasons why I cannot blame sisters for having issues with black men. Because basically he's saying, give me no standards and expect nothing but I'm going to be a good dude. You're not going to be a good dude. If you're going to be a broken man. If you can't provide, you're going to be broken. If you're saying, if you're at first instinct, I might have to go work for the white man, and that keeps going, and your kids are doing that, you're not going to be a good dude. Maybe you personally, but as a populace, you're going to have crime, you're going to have jealousy, you're going to have spite. And so I don't blame sisters, because there's a lot of dudes talking like this. With him, though, I keep saying, I don't think that he's lazy. He did say, this is time I could have been spending because this stuff is free. There's some truth to that. Europeans, I think a lot of them have some small work days, work like 6 hours and stuff, and high minimum wage. Yeah, Americans are a lot of talk when it comes to working hard, and in a sense we do work hard, but we also work hard rhetoric first, talk about working hard, then they'll do it. But yeah, I get where he's coming from. It's just, what a sister listening to that, what she's going to do? She's going to go to the system. She's going to white daddy. Either a white boyfriend or it's going to be, it's going to be welfare. If it's a dude that's got a little bit of money, where it's a breakup and she still ends up with white daddy because of the way the courts work. So you're not providing options. Your women are going to break bad when this is what you're presenting for them. And I can't blame them for it. But in a second, you'll see where I think this is coming from.
In regards to the love of the black woman, because money is only 1,000 years old, and economics is nothing more than a Caucasian disguising his kidnap and ransom on the black race in our planet, and we accept it because we accept money. When you no longer accept money, then you see that bullshit for what it is.
Because the one thing that we're getting a lot from this conscious community is a bunch of broke dudes offering nothing but feel-good talk.
To prove, I would have to question your consciousness, because you said that most conscious brothers I know are broke. And before that, you said that females want an alpha male, so they're more prone to go with the men with the car in the house. Now, what your subconscious is telling me is that you have actually been enslaved by currency, and you seek comfortability and salvation and liberation through the financial dollar. Now, let me keep going on so I can prove my point. You also said that we must become a sovereign nation. So now you have been fooled by white supremacy, which you think you may have now, but I'm going to prove it, Queen, because you can be sovereign all you want.
I got to jump in here. First, there's going to be no collective that doesn't accept money. And there really is no reason not to. I don't even know if we're really backed on the petrodollar. I've heard that. Or if it's just a pure fiat because I said so currency. But what difference does it make? First of all, currency is older than 1,000 years. It's like 500 BC. And in a sense, being called young Pharaoh, I kind of get where he made the mistake. Because ancient Egypt didn't have a standard coinage until the Puerto Ricans or Greeks took over the job. But the Greeks came, they started making some coin. But even then, there was if you read Ptah-hotep, he talked about living lavish and a poor man. So there was a difference between rich and poor because it was a resource economy. So the only difference is, and it was a resource economy that also had ingots. So you still had like pieces of metal that you could load up on a donkey and go trade it with people. If you're calling yourself young Pharaoh, you shouldn't have a problem with fiat currency. Now, maybe on principle, you might want to change that system. I get that. There's Europeans, the zeitgeist people, they want to get out of the whole fiat currency, and I understand why. I get that. But you're not going to be able to do that by folding your hands and being broke. You have to do it from a position of power, and you're not there yet. Matter of fact, you're not going to be there because you just said black men are pussies, or if we stop being pussies. It's not going to happen because of family courts. You're not going to have men that are raised by women who are only 15% of the population at the most to war and take America by war. So why are you even bringing that up? It's not going to happen. And no shade to women, but seriously, y'all know you ain't raising warriors. You know it better than I am, so take no offense, because you know damn well you ain't raising warriors. You are raising a pussy-ass group of dudes. And she even says it. She said, if you listen to this, she was saying, we're not suffering from a lack of femininity. Okay, it's coming. These
motherfuckers will drop a bomb on your land and you'll be dead. These motherfuckers will drop a bomb on your land and you'll be dead.
These motherfuckers will drop a bomb on your land and you'll be dead.
That's it right there. That is it right there. He's not lazy. I don't get a lazy vibe, even though he's using lazy rhetoric. I don't get a lazy vibe from him. I think if his hard work was rewarded tangibly, he'd be a hard worker. Unfortunately, he's scared of the white man. To say some pussy shit like that. Nigga, if they bomb you, bomb them back. Build some fucking radar so you can see them come and shoot them down. That is some cowardly shit. But I'm not trying to rip on him. Because We all have a right to be cowardly. You know, it's like Willie Pete said, if they wanted to reinstitute slavery, what you gonna do? If you want to recolonize Africa, do they manufacture any weapons? What are they going to do? What are they going to be using old-ass AKs? You know, so yes, you have a right to be scared, but you need to be realistic and catch yourself with what you're saying. That if we build up a nation, oh, they're just going to bomb it. You cannot run that shit and call yourself Pharaoh. Right now, you're just young. And since he's young, I'm going to offer a little bit of advice.
My life. Do you know how much knowledge y'all would miss out on? Do y'all know how much shit y'all would miss out on? Ain't nobody. I showed y'all how to fucking summon souls. Okay? Who? Go get it. Go get another nigga and show me that. Show me him. Show you step by step and break down the science.
He can summon souls. I mean, it's not high-level magic user shit, but he's at least a level 1 soul summoner. And I'm not joking. That's why I said, check him out.
Y'all, don't nobody help me pay for my traveling. Don't nobody help me pay for the venues. Don't nobody help me pay for shit. Young Pharaoh does everything out of his own fucking pocket. This camera I'm using to make this video with, I bought this camera so that I can make videos for y'all. What the fuck? Like, I pay for my traveling. I pay for the venues. I do this shit for the people. And then the people don't help me back. But it's not, I'm not tripping. I'm not stressing because I do this out of righteousness, not out of monetary gain. But the point I'm trying to make is y'all are being ignorant to that. And it's like,
man, this is going to be hard. Like, look, why are you getting so passionate about how you're spending money? Money's no big deal. Why are you even bringing it up? You know, because you know, money is a big deal. Resources is a big deal. Even if you're right, or if we're both right, I think we are heading towards a magical age. But you know what? Them Wiccas, them Freemasons, they're going to fuck you up in a more magical age, young Pharaoh, because they've got money. They've got more resources. You don't even have to call it money. Just call it resources, because the fiat currency is just to prevent you from carrying around a big bag of shaved metal or whatever else you would trade. It's just a because I said so handshake deal. That's it. It's just convenience. And you know, if you want to break the system, which I would be okay with, we can't do it in our generation. We can get it in motion in our generation, especially your generation. We couldn't win in Magic. You can't wait. I think I was talking to this one follower of young Pharaoh, and he was talking about how galaxies are going to align. I forget what it is. I mean, it's something about the new age of Aquarius and everything, and how it's going to be a more magical age. And I think there may be some truth to that. But here's the thing: if you don't have the resources, you're not going to be able to afford proper spell components. You're not going to be able to afford a good staff, a good wand, a hat, a familiar that, you know, you'll have like a $200 dog as a familiar, while Preacher Man, what's his name, Leroy, has that $7,000 dog. And Freemasons, they're going to have that jetpack dog. So let's be real. Even Magic is going to take resources. So get your subscribers up. I have a little bit of a Facebook following. I don't have much as far as YouTube subscribers, but I know how to generate some talk. So this dude is popular in a short period of time. You can be building your community. If all of your subscribers, I think you guys like 25,000 subscribers, if all of them gave you an average of $1, just say give me $1 through $10, it's up to you. If all of them, like some of them didn't, or if somebody isn't a subscriber, if everyone who listened, you know, for the last month or so gave you $1, you'd have 25,000. You could build a magic school. You could teach, and I'll go back to this when I get to Willie Pete. I'm almost done with Young Pharaoh, but I'm just giving solutions, because actually he goes on and on going back and forth, and it reminded me of Willie Pete's video where he says, You just have to say money doesn't matter, even though your brain, common sense, everything you're seeing, everything you're saying is not on that money doesn't matter shit. You just have to say it because it's been ingrained in you, even though young Pharaoh is not a Christian, and he has that Christian mentality where he just wants to reduce everything to nothing that is related to a scoreboard. It has to be esoteric. Money is scoreboard. Jason Black is right. Money is scoreboard. And we're all human. We've all probably messed it up, especially in the situation we're in as melanated people. But really, that's no excuse, because you can win a fight if you have the resources. You know, you're talking about pussies because we aren't just sticking up the white man, hey, give us back whatever. You don't even have to get that fancy to get reparations. You know, if you had, because later on he gets mad at his followers. I'm going to end it right here with young Pharaoh, but he gets mad at his followers because he said, you know, I said take your money out of the system. You have 25,000 subscribers in a short period of time. That's excellent. But it's not nearly enough to starve the beast. You're not going to get anything by starving the beast with your backing. You're popular in a short time, but it's not enough to run that. You know what it is enough for? It is enough for you to position yourself to run for local office, especially because you're more popular in New York. You can get into politics. You can hit up your subscribers. There were people in his comments saying, "Yo, why is he mad? He shouldn't be mad like this. We were going to give him some money. You know, we should take care of the brothers." And maybe a magic school isn't, you know, the best scenario. That's one of the things we don't need. But look, there's so many things that living in New York you need because of gentrification. You need to build up the black community. And that really brings me to Willie Pete. I'm not going to play anything with Willie Pete because I really only have two things to say. Is you're right. And this is an example of what's wrong with the African American community. Even in a situation where I think someone does have an understanding of what magic used to be in the world, because I've studied a lot of ancient history. Oh, actually, I got three things. One is, I remember one time he talked about how he had called up some radio show, and there was a white dude, and after he got off the line, this white dude was sounding extremely bigoted. He was on some black people ain't done nothing in history stuff, and Willie Pete was saying, hey, look at what's built. It's built near the equator. I mean, Rome and Greece. The closer you were to Africa, the more it was popping. And then, you know, he kind of used Stonehenge as an exception. Man, look up the Bell Beaker DNA. Look up Viking genetics. I used to think that African Americans were almost inherently arrogant when they talked about history. Not anymore, not anymore, not anymore. Damn near everything that's popping in ancient Europe, or even medieval Europe, I guess Vikings would be kind of early medieval, has an African tie to it. I'm just saying. And if Bell Beaker, you're finding an abundance of African genetics to the point where it's like half and half. With Vikings, it's almost a little more than half Vikings. So that's one thing. I mean, don't underestimate. And another, you know, I'm going to stay on the history with you. Actually, maybe I should go back to the history. I want to throw this in first. This is I want to end with something that's a solution for everybody. I think you've had like YouTube accounts canceled or whatever. So I don't know if it's fair to say this, but both of your accounts combined have less subscribers than Young Pharaoh. At best, Young Pharaoh, he gets down strong in spirituality. He has a better understanding of magic than most mumbo jumbo dudes, by far, which doesn't say much, but that might be one of the reasons why he's popular in a short time. But I don't know if I can name anybody on this planet that can, in a short time, articulate wrong with the African American community better than Willie Pete, flat out. But the thing is, Willie Pete is not a politician. He does not know how to sweeten his message. I don't know why you're stuck on this patriarchy stuff. Like, I remember he was talking to this one woman, and he was laying it out in how the black community needs a patriarchy. And his definition of patriarchy, I guess it makes sense. Okay, black communities need a patriarchy. I get where he's coming from with that. Mobilized men are going to build where tomboys and labor chicks, there are not enough of them to build. So, and if you got men building and busting their ass and having scabs on their arms and sleep in their eyes, you can't screw them over in the family court like you're doing now. You just can't. Because one, they're not even gonna get to the point where you're happy with them if they know they're getting screwed. Because even the guys that are doing well and have like 5 kids with a sister, they're in worse danger to get screwed if there's a simple breakup. It might be an amicable breakup, but if you got 5 kids and there's a breakup and it's with somebody who can't take care of themselves and they put you on child support, you'd have been better off if you had 5 kids with 5 different people. You'd be paying less child support. Because more than likely, one of them is going to be unfit. You're going to have custody of one. You're going to be with one. So you're probably going to only have 3 kids that you're paying child support on. And then they got laws so child support is even. So you can only pay so much. So you'd be capped with the bottom kid. So at the most, you'd probably be paying like a few $100s a month, which is still kind of not for certain people. But that's the thing. The current system rewards ratchetness both for men and women. So first things first is you have to change those laws. Pro-ratchetness laws are not the business. It's not good for anybody, and our neighborhoods reflect that. So I would say just the messaging. I don't care what you say it, and I don't think black women care. So why call it patriarchy? It's just like with Republicans. They knew that inheritance tax sounded, for most people, inheritance tax, it sounds like, okay, we need to tax people who are passing down generational wealth so we can redistribute money to people who don't have generational wealth, and people can kind of get with the inheritance tax. But then you call it the death tax. And that's messaging. Calling it patriarchy just lacks messaging. Call it something else. These sisters don't care. Call it common sense, because that's what it is. Because they know better than we know that we can't build under these situations. Most of them know. I've talked to one that might not have known, but maybe she just wanted a better explanation. But if you explain to them how the system works, they know black men can't build with that. One of the reasons why we talk like we're lazier than we are is because we know it's not going to happen. Because I've seen too many dudes with baby mama drama who don't have enough disposable income to build anything, really. Like even myself, just to save $2,500 takes me like a year. And with discipline. The reality is, at my age, I should be able to save that in a few months tops. A few months easy. I should be able to go borrow it. But we're all in this situation, so we got to mobilize and work together. So the last thing I want to present, and this is the thing that's probably the most important for everybody, is I know you rip on the Hotep names, and I can see why. Ooh, can I see why? But one other thing that we could take from history is, and really this is related to the church, because you also get on the church, and I can see why. Oh yes, I can see why. And after addressing family court, I'm not sure if they would build without it, but first thing, you at least gotta loosen up the noose. But the key to me is the church. I don't care what religion's in it, But if you can restore the African church, and since I use ancient Egypt as an example, since we're on with young Pharaoh, but really I could use Orishas and any type of what from the outside looking in looks polytheistic, even though it's a faceted monotheism, really. Faceted because everything's God, which is why it's ridiculous. This whole black woman's God stuff is just bullshit. That's to young Pharaoh. It's bullshit. Because in African culture, everything's God. Black man, white woman, the dog, the cat. A piece of shit is God. And if you don't think shit is important, if you can't shit, you die from constipation. If you can't shit, if everything can't shit, there's no fertilizer. And then it messes up agriculture and you die from starvation. So everything is God because we're all part of the system. We're all part of everything we know that is nature. But anywho, if you restore the African church, and I could use any system that has multiple gods, but Egypt really had it cracking. And really, it just, you can do the same with our churches now. You just have someone, the high priest has to be an expert at something like they would have been if they were quote unquote monotheistic. So if you're the high priest of Egypt who's happy, they handle irrigation. If you're the high priest of Djibouti, it was like the librarians, researchers, scribes, and some other roles, I forget. But it was mostly knowledge-related stuff, because it goes to the Tuhu tree, the tree of knowledge, in the Pygmy stories. And from what I observed, I could be wrong, that Tuhu was originally a dwarven god, which is what I call Pygmies or Batchwa. I prefer dwarves, because they're different. Then there's Ra, astrology, Mantu, war. We need that, because evidently, as young Pharaoh saying, they're going to bomb us, man. So we need to build some surface-to-air missiles, so they won't bomb us. There's atom, chemistry, atom. It's all related. Atom bomb. So Mantu, atom, Mahes, Sekhmet. There were many gods of war, even female Sekhmet. But Sekhmet was also science. So war science, strategicness. Hathor, more agriculture, dealing with the ranch and the farm animals. Ptah, creativity. Whatever's needed, whatever you need, craft. It could be bottles for Coke, work with Coke. Be bottles for some, change the churches to include a level of expertise. Another example, new quantum physics, quantum computers. Sekhmet could be for computers, computer engineering. Add that to the African church, African American church, the same way that music was added. Because who says you can only celebrate God with music? Why can't you celebrate God with cell phone apps? Why can't you celebrate God by creating anything, really? By creating laptops, TVs, video games, books, piping for irrigation and stuff like that. I mean, everything, man. An expertise in everything. There's so many black churches that they're like poor man's safety net, praise the Lord music, and that's it. Nation of Islam isn't much different. So re-Africanize the church. And you re-Africanize the church, you fix the family.